Anyways, I'm really glad that Dave did his talk last week on the science of God, because it sort of segues right into what I wanted to say. And I'll try not to get too dry on you. But a lot of people wonder about how they can, how you can change your life, basically, to be more loving and understanding, kinder people. And circumstances and events that happen in your life, a lot of times they're sent because they're exactly what you need at the time. But events that happen in your life are neutral. They don't really have any meaning except the meaning that you give them. And you wonder, how do I get that meaning? And where did that come from, basically? Your beliefs are where all of your reactions to life circumstances come from. And the unfortunate thing about that is about 95% of your beliefs are in your subconscious, so you don't even know what they are. And so it's like, how can I discover what those beliefs are? I mean, even our physiology is against us. We have a limited physical body. We're created in the image of God. We're creators. We're an energy. But our energy is in this limited physical body, which can be rather frustrating at times. So we sometimes, from these experiences, develop beliefs like, I'm not enough. I don't matter. And when you have a belief like that, it shows up in your life in a lot of different ways. And if you could get to that belief and understand and get it to dissipate, you would be a lot freer and you could experience more joy and more happiness in your life. So how do you get to that? Because your beliefs will trigger your thoughts. Your thoughts trigger your emotions or feelings. And your actions come from your emotions and feelings, and then you have an experience, and that's what creates your life. It's a cycle. And by the way, I did make a bunch of handouts, there might be some left. I didn't print out that many, but there might be some left up there. So that's the creative process. And but as I was saying, your physiology is against you too, because when you experience something, particularly an incident that is scary or can cause anger or whatever, it goes through your reptilian brain first, your amygdala. And that bypasses your logical brain. If something happens to you and it's not that stressful or whatever, you can handle it. You can, you can check your emotions and that. But when something, you have like a little button pusher, because your experiences with your primary care, your parents or whatever, they can put these feelings in you and they're painful, so you push them down into your subconscious. When somebody causes you to think about that experience, it might not even be a conscious thought. It goes first through your amygdala, and then and you react. So if you could somehow disconnect, unhook that emotion from your thought, you could step back and catch yourself. And basically, what it takes is just, you start to get this feeling, if you just back up figuratively and say, isn't that interesting? What must I be believing to be having these thoughts and feeling these emotions? And then you've given yourself space to rethink what you might do. Everybody has an inner guide. And this inner guide is constantly broadcasting to you. It's constantly trying to guide you. But if you are not making space for that guidance, then you're missing out, but you're going to do things that you probably wish you didn't do. You know, later on you're like, why did I say that? I mean, and so we need to give ourselves some space, and it becomes easier and easier as you practice. How difficult is it to not react? I mean, there was an incident that I just experienced where I pulled up to a stop sign and somebody across the road pulled up to their stop sign shortly after me. Well, I like to just wave them on so I don't have to worry about what are they going to do. And so when traffic cleared, I waved this guy on, but then he waved me on. And then another vehicle came, so I had to wait. And then I waved him on, he waved me on. And I said, okay, I'm going to go. And so I started to go, and my daughter's in the passenger seat. And he decided he was going to go at the same time. So he nearly hit me. And my daughter just went, oh my God, I can't believe it. I can't believe he's doing this. Oh my God, and going on. And I just said, relax. Nobody got hurt. We're okay. We'll just keep going. And that's what we did, because I was driving. And so it does become easier to stop yourself and just relax into the moment and release the feelings. But your subconscious beliefs are exposed by observing your thoughts and your feelings. If someone makes a remark that triggers that belief, then you need to step back to interrupt the cycle, as I said, and allow yourself to breathe. Okay, so I just wanted to read an example of a teacher of mine. And when he was young, he was close to his dad. His dad would give him nurturing. He would make him feel safe and loved. But when he turned about 3 years old, his dad was afraid that if he continued his nurturing and behavior, he would basically sissify his son. So he didn't want his son to be a sissy, so he stopped being affectionate to him. And his son didn't know what was happening, so he just got the belief that my dad doesn't love me anymore. I'm not loved. And that was painful, so that got shoved down into his subconscious. Well, it kept showing up in his life, but he wasn't aware of this belief. So, for instance, he had a friend who happened to be a girl. They were in high school, and she asked him to go to this, like a Sadie Hawkins type thing, where the girl asked the guy to go to the dance, go to a dance with her. And he had the belief that he wasn't lovable. So he turned her down, and he went and he asked somebody that he knew, internally he knew, but he didn't acknowledge it, would not accept it. And he never spoke to the other girl because she did not support his belief that he was not lovable. And so it tripped him up a lot. So he wrote this one story when he finally got in touch with this. He said, I love baseball. I've been coaching my son and daughter for the last few years in t-ball, and both of them are competitive, but then they stepped up into a more competitive league. So he said, I've written a book all about having a peaceful mind in order to connect with your inner guide. And I have worked at an alternative high school with students who act out on a regular basis, and he has tons of practice keeping his peace of mind around some serious craziness. So playing baseball with a bunch of 9 to 10-year-olds would be a piece of cake. Not. Turns out I ended up with a great group of youngsters in our 9 to 10-year-old team. They listened well, were respectful, and for the most part were learning about baseball. And as a coach, of a group this young, you can't ask for a much better group. Then their on-the-field performance was my struggle. I find myself getting angry when a player would make an error, strike out, or any numerous mistakes that baseball players make. I did not get upset about every mistake, but I found myself at home thinking about how to improve performance. Of course, improving performance is what a coach is supposed to do, but I was aware that I had a lot of emotional energy around this desire to improve performance. This, in combination with my own frustration on the field, with mistakes that were made me mentally step back and laugh at myself. Sometimes I would actually start laughing at my frustration while I was coaching third base, and some of the players were concerned that I was laughing at them, but I assured them I was not. Because of my emotional energy around the baseball team and its performance, I knew there was something in my subconscious that was causing me some emotional pain. I allowed myself to have these feelings and minimize the judgment. Because you don't want to judge yourself when you're having feelings. That just makes you all the more guilty or whatever, and it's not helpful. And so he says, in this way, I was able to be more of a neutral observer of myself. And he turned to his inner guide to ask to have whatever the issue was that was driving my thinking, emotions, and behavior resolved. A few weeks later, I was on vacation, wasn't even thinking about baseball when it occurred to me why I had so much emotional energy around the game. As a youngster, I experienced baseball as my salvation. I grew up in a not-so-happy family, and baseball was an oasis for me. I was a very good baseball player and got much praise for my performance. As you may have imagined, my father also loved baseball, and I certainly made an association in my mind that my father would love me or love me more if I was a good baseball player. So all of these mistakes and everything threatened this image of his dad, of being loved for being able to play baseball well. And if he wasn't able to whip this team into shape, he wasn't going to be lovable. So these thoughts, of course, are running around my subconscious, and it took experience with the Little League team to bring that up. I recognize that my overreaction to the Little League games was due to my strong association with baseball success and my desire to feel loved. The important lesson here is that by observing yourself getting upset like an impartial third party, you open yourself up to healing. If you can understand that this is a subconscious thought that you have that's driving this behavior, and if you catch yourself in this behavior and recognize that, eventually that feeling will dissipate over time. It will get weaker and weaker because you realize it's never the other person or the situation. It's always what's inside you that is causing that reaction. And so I did these little diagrams of the creative process just because it always starts with the beliefs. But we don't know what those beliefs are, so we got to find out what the beliefs are. So you take your thoughts, and here I'm just doing something that I learned, that you would take a situation and write down that situation and write down that everything about that situation that is, that you can remember. Your boss is upset with you, or he doesn't respect me. I put in all this hard work, he doesn't see it, and all this, and you write down all the circumstances around that. And then you can write down what you'd like to say to that individual, and that puts everything out front. This is what's happening, this is what I wish I could say, or I want to say, or whatever. Get those feelings out, and then you express your feelings on paper. Come up with a list of one words, and I've got some examples here of all the feelings that this situation elicits. And then you take, those are, so those that gives you the observation. Now I'm observing what I did, and what can I do about it? So now you want to know what when you were in that situation, what were your triggers? I mean, how did that situation make you feel? Triggers are like, he accused me of doing something, or I felt shamed, or I felt guilty about doing what I did. That other made me feel this way. But you do understand that it didn't make you feel that way. What you're believing made you feel that way. And when you are able to write that down, how did that situation really make you feel? These are your subconscious beliefs. I'm not enough. I'm lonely. I can't trust the world. The world's a bad place to be in. And then when you get into a situation like that again, you're more likely to recognize that that is what is occurring, that belief is coming up again. And there are some proactive forgiveness practices that you can do. There's always the Ho'oponopono. You're probably getting tired of me saying it, but it really does work. If you envision that situation, that person in your mind, and you say, I love you, and it could be even you're frustrated with your fact that you're reacting all the time. So hold yourself in love and say, I love you. That is sometimes a really hard thing to do. If you haven't done it already, I challenge you to look in the mirror and tell yourself that you love you. There's a lot of times, took me a long time of looking away, and forcing myself to look. Yeah, I really do love you. And then I'm sorry, You're not, you're sorry that this is the trigger point, that this is happening inside you. It's time to release it, and please forgive me. Forgiveness is the release. I'm forgiving this situation. I'm forgiving myself for always reacting this way. And then thank you. And as you do this process, it becomes easier. I mean, there are people in my life that even 5 years ago, it was very, very difficult to even look at these people. And I did a lot of forgiveness work. And one of these people, is living under my roof right now. And, in the beginning, it was like really like chalk on the fingernails on the chalkboard, But this person didn't have anywhere else to go at the time. So I have like these things battling inside me, I don't want you here, but I don't want to see you out on, where else are you going to go at this point, right? So anyways, it really does help to soften and create love and create space inside you. And then I have one from A Course in Miracles. What I would do sometimes is a situation would come up and I wanted to react, but the statement is, I do not know what anything, including this, means. And so I do not know how to respond to it. And I will not use my own past learning as the light to guide me now. You're letting go of what you did in the past. It might be effective, it might not. But if you let go of what you learned in the past, how to handle a situation, and say, Holy Spirit, let me know what to do in this situation. What would you have me do now? And that works even in situations of intense stress. As I saw in February, my one grandson had basically had a meltdown. He just got really upset about a comment that I made, but just overblown. And it was very stressful because I'm sitting there thinking, because I'm just listening to him, and he's pacing the floor, and he's yelling, and he's sitting on the floor, and he's saying, I just want to die, I just want to die. And I'm sitting there going, I don't know what to do about this. It's not my specialty, And I don't feel like I've effectively handled deep stress like this, before. And so I just took a deep breath and went really, okay, Holy Spirit, what would you have me do now? I mean, you wouldn't even think you would be able to have a second of calmness but it's like being in the eye of a hurricane. If you can find that eye and just relax into it. And the thought came to me is, you need to take him to the hospital. But how was I going to talk him into this, right? So I just said, if that thought is correct, if that is what I am supposed to do, please let me know. Or please help me do that. And he just sort of threw his hands down and started walking toward his door. Because I told him, I said, I know of a place I can bring you where people would listen. And he had grabbed me by the shoulders and said that they won't understand me. They'll minimize me. They'll say, that I'm making this all up. And he threw his hands down and turned around and walked away. And that's when I said, if this is what I'm supposed to do, let me know how to get him there. And as he's walking towards the room, I said, if you just put on your shoes and your jacket, I can take you there. And he did. And then I was able to get him the help that he needed. So even when you're really, really stressed, you can take that step back and you can say, Holy Spirit, what would you have me do now? You have an inner guide. You don't have to react. You can disconnect from your flight or fight response. Those button pushers, bless those button pushers. Bless those situations. Bless the people that get you upset, because they're there to help you get closer to your trueness, to who you really are. Get you in touch with the guidance that you have. And it's there for you all the time. So I wish all of you great peace. I wish all of you the strength and the courage to try and step back when something is really upsetting you. And even when things aren't really, pounding at you or really upsetting or stressing you out, are you, this one friend of mine said that she was in the grocery store and she needed something off a shelf, and this woman offered to get it for her or something, and she said, no, I can get it myself, or something. She reacted, right? And then she took the item and she started walking away, and she said, why did I do that? She was just trying to be nice to me or whatever. Whatever the woman said triggered something in her. And she realized, oh, that's my reaction to this. That's my I'm not capable reaction. And so she went back to the woman. She said, I wanted to apologize for my reaction. It was because I felt not capable in that moment. But I really appreciate that you wanted to help me out. And then she was fine and walked away. So even if it's not a huge stressor, if you just take the time to try to understand, your subconscious beliefs will be brought to your consciousness. You can work on them there, and eventually they dissipate, and you are living a more joyful, a more happy, and a more peaceful life. And namaste.